Good evening, South Windsor, and welcome to the Town Council Special Budget Work Meeting on Monday, May 8th at 7 p.m. Could we get a roll call, please?
Councilor Gamble. Here. Councilor Kozakowski.
Here.
Deputy Mayor King. Mayor Pendleton.
Present.
Councilor Paterna.
Here.
Councilor Kabaski.
Here.
And Councilor Evans.
Could we get Councilor Evans' name tag back for her, please? And item number 3 is public input. And the public input shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speakers shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. The speakers shall avoid any personal attack or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speakers may address the council on any item on the agenda. The speakers shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. And this evening, the only item on the agenda is a discussion item for the general government budget. So when you come up to the lectern, there's a microphone right there with a little button on the base. It turns red when you hit it. And when you're done speaking, you can just turn off the microphone. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the council on the budget? Please come to the lectern.
Roselle MacDonald, 25 Norton Lane. I'd like to speak on 2 items. The first being the reduction or elimination of the leaf harvest. It's something I appreciate. My husband and I rely on it, especially the second trip around. We're surrounded by oak trees. And if you don't do it, what are we going to do with the leaves? Some people are going to rake them into the roads. Some people are going to rake them into the drain areas, and some people are going to burn them, and that's air pollution. And then what if the fire gets out of control? So we'd really like you to keep the leaf harvest in the budget. Plus, it creates compost, which we can use and which we sell. Second, please don't cut the library budget. I see you proposed $300,000 to $500,000 cut. The library is one institution where all ages, all economic statuses use it. It's a great way to showcase our town. And if we want to be an inclusive community, I think the good way to start, we already have good schools, is to start with a library and fund it.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Anyone else like to speak to the council on any item on the agenda?
My name is Joseph Handelman. I live at 22 Gray Road with my wife Lillian. We're both retired seniors. I sent you through your town council an email after the last town council meeting concerning the potential deletion of the $400,000 leaf collection budget item. If no line items were deleted from this proposed budget, we would be paying over $600 more of taxes, my wife and I, the vast majority to go towards the Board of Education budget, which is also where the vast majority of all my taxes go to fund. Even though we have not had any of our children in the South Windsor school system for over 30 years, we continue to subsidize the Board of Education budget each year. On the other hand, the town has been collecting leaves since the late 1960s. This is a service that I and people that I know in town have come to look forward to and expect each fall. The cost comes to roughly $14.50 per person based on the population of South Windsor. For me and my wife, that amounts to only $29 of the over $8,000 in taxes we will be paying under this budget. If we had to contract with someone or a company to remove our leaves, the cost would be well over the $29 that keeping the leaf collection in the budget would cost us. So I ask you not to reduce the leaf collection budget.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to the council on the budget?
My name is Lance Kramer, and I live on Hilton Drive. And as our mayor can attest to, I live a couple of doors down from her, and our children went to school together and went to scouts together. And I've lived in the town for about 35 years. And I want to echo some of the things that the two people before me said one of the nicest things that the town does is collect the leaves from everybody. And part of the advantage of doing it that way is that everybody's leaves get collected on the same day. That means that your leaves, you don't get collected on Tuesday by a private contractor, and then 3 days later, my leaves blow onto your lawn. And that's really the kind of thing that really torques out people, is they spend all that money to get their yard cleaned up, and the wind comes along and takes all the other people's leaves who don't want to clean up and deposit them in their lawn. And that's the beauty of a town-wide leaf collection. The other issue I think that people have mentioned is that there are some people who will just say, to hell with it, and blow their leaves into the street. And two things would happen about that. One is that the leaves are slippery, and people will have car accidents. And God forbid, somebody comes around the corner first thing in the morning when the kids are standing there at the bus, and they skid on the leaves, and I don't want to say any more because I don't want it to happen, but you can imagine. The other thing is that the leaves that get blown into the street are going to end up in the sewer. And I don't have to tell you as a town manager what that entails, aside from the fact that they'll clog the sewer and people have to spend quite a bit of time and money to unclog it. If the water that backs up freezes, that's a major problem. I suppose the other thing is that what you do now is very environmentally friendly. You collect the leaves, you grind them into probably 1/10 the size that they are now, and you compost them. And whether you sell it or not, that's an environmentally friendly thing to do. The alternative is, like we said before, they get blown into the street, they go into the sewer, they go into a landfill, or they get incinerated. All of those things are very unfriendly. And someone else mentioned the economics of it. I figured it out similarly. And for somebody who pays $8,000 a year in taxes, the savings from doing that is about $20. And it's not worth it, folks. It just isn't worth it. I understand that this is a bad year and tax-wise, and you have to come up with some things. But postponing capital projects, I understand that because they will get done eventually. But eliminating a service that lots and lots of people use and appreciate is really a bad idea, particularly how little you really save from doing it. So I really hope you reconsider this, and thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council? Please come forward and state your name and address.
John Wren, 195 Wood Pond Road, South Windsor. Been a South Windsor resident for 40 years. Past number of years, the budgets have getting increasingly higher, taxes higher. Not sure why all that's happening, but I suspect it's because of the education system, great education system, no faults with it. But the numbers are getting out of control, in my opinion. And I think I've talked to Mr. Maniscalco that unsustainable if we continue at this rate. East Windsor just published their budget 3.31%. Windsor 7.1%. One of my questions is, Windsor is going to a referendum. Why don't we have a referendum here? There's a very narrow group of people who control the budget. And this is a town budget. Everyone pays the taxes in town here. Why isn't this a decision by the taxpayers as opposed to a few individuals? Notwithstanding you guys. Portable classrooms. Why do we need portable classrooms? We have all brand new schools. Portable classrooms expenditure could pay for the leaf collection. So, again, I know you probably can't answer the questions, but anyways, the future is going to get worse if we don't do something with the budget, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Anyone else from the public want to speak to the council concerning the budget?
Jim McDonald from Norton Lane. I'd like to, regarding your proposed not picking up the leaves, all I can say is, no, no, 1,000 times no. I predict that if they're not picked up, people are going to just scatter them in the street. They'll rake them into the street or dump them in the street. You'll have a bigger problem than you even have now. So that's my comment.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to council? Please come forward. And now it is.
Now it is. Steve Gratch, Judy Lane. Definitely want to echo what the heartbeat of this community is saying. But I think one of the reasons why we've gotten to this point is because we're giving so much back in tax abatements. We should not be doing that. The location of South Windsor is desirable, so we don't need to give the developers, we do not need to give the builders all this money back. End of story. Almost $13 million. And you're talking about cutting programs. It's crazy. I could go into more, but that's it for tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the council? Asking a second time, is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on the item on the agenda? Third time? Anyone from the council? Anyone from the council? Anyone from the public? What am I thinking? Anyone from the public? Not hearing anymore, we'll move on. Thank you, everyone, for speaking to us this evening. Moving on to item number 4. And councilors, before you, you will see a spreadsheet that has the items on the left and your name across the top. I wanted to do this in some organized fashion. So what we can do to obtain some sort of a majority or a consensus or something is we're going to go down, I'm going to go down on the left by reading the item and calling out the name of the counselor. And when your name is called, it is your turn to talk. That is your floor time. You have the talking stick. So if you have any questions about that item that we are presently on, that would be the time for you to speak to Mr. Maniscalco to gather any more information if you need it. Okay? I'm trying to keep this as best organized as I can. So we're going to start with capital, and we're going to start with Counselor Gamble, please. And if you have a proposed dollar amount change, that's why the dollar amounts are listed. If you have a different number you would like to propose, we can put that under your name for a different proposal amount. So Councilor Gamble for capital.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not much to really say about this. Obviously, when the budget was proposed to us, we saw a big number of $4 million. So it seemed that if we were going to cut anything to try to save the taxpayer some money, that this was the easy low-hanging fruit. So I know that there are obligations that we have to pay with this coming fiscal year's capital money of $1.1 million for some project. I forget what it is. Can you just remind me so I don't sound...
Pleasant Valley Bridge.
Yeah, thank you. So that leaves, $1.5 million, which is not much, but I just don't think this is the year to be spending a lot on capital. I know that it might be a little short-sighted, but given where we are, the numbers we have, we just spent as a town, we approved $35 million for new roads. That should, and that's another capital project, so I'm in favor of this $1.4 million cut. Is that what the deal is? I'm supposed to?
So you're in favor of this dollar number, so we're just
Yes.
going to put yes as a cut
Okay.
in our box. That's okay. That's okay. Counselor Kozakowski for capital, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd be able to speak on this one, but I think what would be good for the order as we go down the list for each potential cut if we can get some background from the Budget Committee to why this cut is on the table, it might help us in our comments. But I'm prepared to speak on the capital. So I served the past 2 years on the Capital Projects Committee, and the reoccurring theme, every discussion every year is we got to fund capital more. It's not a sustainable amount. The amount that we've been funding is not going to get us to where we need to go. The current capital budget is at, I think, 2.3 this fiscal year. To be fully sustainable and funding to make sure that our projects are timely and we're not putting anybody in any of our facilities in compromise of something bad happening. We should be funding capital, to the tune of $8-9 million a year. I'm not proposing we go that high, not today, not next year, not the year after that. But I do believe that we should be making some progress towards building our capital budget so annually we're in a position where we can, behave and make the improvements we need to in a sustainable way. So that said, a proposed cut of $1.4 million will bring us down to the minimum amount that our charter would allow our capital projects budget to go. And doing the minimum isn't going to help us make progress for the future. I do understand this is a tough year. I would not support $1.4 million cut, but I'm willing to compromise and go down to a $700,000 cut. In doing so, we fund the projects, the minimum projects that we have to, otherwise, we don't move forward, and it helps us move in a positive direction towards funding a capital budget sustainably sometime in the future. So I would be okay with a $700,000 cut.
Thank you. And the explanation for the cut to capital is that capital is always a low-hanging fruit. And that's pretty much, I don't know if you, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And capital is always gone after to reduce the budget.
Yeah, and if I can add one more thing, the Capital Committee voted for a proposed dollar amount, and a unanimous decision of $5.4 million was what Capital Projects Committee suggested for a proposed budget. So what was proposed by the town manager was less than that. A $1.4 million reduction is a far cry from what the Capital Committee voted for. So,
Okay, moving on.
thank you.
Yep. Counselor, let's go with Deputy Mayor King. A little out of order, but I'm just going to go around the table.
That's fine. Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I can ask a question of our town manager, and thank you, Councilor Kaczykowski. If in cutting this, and I wish we had some kind of a chart to, let's just say we cut it to 1.4. What would you say would be the top 3 things that we would be able to do this fiscal year? And then say what we are not going to be able to do so the public is aware, because sometimes I think that we are very short-sighted.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, a cut of 1.4 million brings us down to the basic bare minimum, and we have requirements in this year's capital budget from the Capital Committee that I think really made their life very difficult in terms of we have obligations that we have to fund certain things. So we have to fund the Pleasant Valley Road project, we have to fund our reval, we have to fund our plan of conservation development. Mr. Roberts, I'm trying to think if there were any other have to funds. I think those are kind of the absolutes.
What are those absolutes again?
So
The roads?
Pleasant Valley Road,
Yep.
Pleasant Valley Bridge,
Yep.
our revaluation,
Mhm.
and our plan of conservation development.
And what would we not be funding if you had to say the top 3 Right. Just the
Well,
top-
I mean, there's a list of $40 million worth of projects that
Right.
we have backlogged for capital, so.
So let me rephrase. So the things that we have heard from everybody and their dad in our town about that need to get done, need to get done, need to get done, need to get done, need to get done. What aren't we going to be able to do? If you had to choose the top three that you've heard in your office, yes, I know.
Yeah.
Because I want everybody to realize that when they look back at the minutes of this, that us making these cuts, we're not going to have those same things.
Yeah, I mean, without, off the top of my head, being put on the spot, I can't tell you exactly the top three priority. What I can tell you is there is a list of $40 million worth of projects.
Okay.
And the biggest challenge that I think we all face with that $40 million is every year that we don't do something in that list, it gets pushed on to the next year, and it gets pushed on to the next year. So that $40 million only gets larger every year. And they
So-
are priorities, they are important. They're not things that we're just pushing off year to year. Those are things that have to get done.
Okay, and that was almost kind of what I was hoping the direction you would go. So we are going to be essentially kicking the can down the road for our future generations.
Well,
Okay.
till next year at least.
Right,
But
at
yeah.
least. And then there might be another situation in which we're going to be in this same thing. Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that, because sometimes I think that we're very short-sighted in what we need to do, then what we want to do, and then all of a sudden what we're asked to do. And so I just wanted to be kind of clear on that. Thank you, sir. So that said, I am, it's unfortunate. I'm going to have to compromise as well, because I think there are certain things that do need to get done. And I agree with Councilor Kozakowski in regards to the 700,000.
Thank you. And moving on to capital, Councilor Paterno.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. This year, we've been hit by the perfect storm, which is revaluation year, plus all the increases due to inflation, increased costs for all materials, supplies, and the growth, tremendous growth of the student population in our schools. So I think, although I'd love to get all the projects done, I think we need to stay at that 1.4 million as a cut to capital budgets.
You'd like to say what? I'm sorry.
Stay at the 1.4 million.
Okay. And we have Councilor Leidecker and Councilor Lopez are not here. However, I think they can submit their information to the manager tomorrow. Pretty sure, and then you can share that with us. I would like to, with the majority of us here this evening, that's pretty much how we're going to get a majority of us, unless you have specifics for the capital for either one.
I do for Councilor Lopez. He says up to $1 million he would support in capital projects as a cut, up to.
Up to 1 million, okay. Councilor Leidecker, say anything? She submitted any answers? Okay. And now Councilor Evans. Councilor Kubasky, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When we came up with the $1.4 million cut, that brought us down to the minimum that we need to fund it at. That's how we came up with the 1.4. But after further conversations and understanding that the 1.4 will not allow us to complete projects that need to be done, I think I'm in agreement with both Councilor Kozakowski and Deputy Mayor King, where I would be good with the $700,000 cut.
Thank you. Councilor Evans?
Thank you. I just pulled up the presentation that we received at our one of our budget workshop meetings. And the project that I really see that I absolutely want, it's a want, more than necessarily a need in my opinion, is the Parks and Rec Fairgrounds utilities and the building. Believe me, I would love to see that happen. I really would think that that is a great future investment for that park. But even that being $1.25 million, I think it's fair to say that if we were to cut that one project and cut 1.25, I would be comfortable with that.
So you want to cut 1.25 off of the 4 or off of the 5? Off of the 4?
Yes.
Because that was included in the original 5 that was presented, wasn't that? It was part of the 5 that was presented. And then when we reduced it down to the 4, I don't know if that was removed or what projects could be done or not be done
This
at the
was
4.
presented to us at our budget workshop
At the 4,
in April.
okay. So that was at the 4%. So then you want to take off the 1.25 off of the 4.
I would not be opposed to going down to the 1.4, but I think I am comfortable with 1.25 because of this project amount being a want more than a need.
So are you saying you want to reduce it 1.25? Or are you saying you want to bring it down to 1.25?
I want to reduce it by 1.25.
Okay. Okay. Like the others have said 700,000, you're saying 1.25.
Well, I think 700,000, I'd be curious to know where that number necessarily comes from. Like, where are you looking at the capital project to come up with a $700,000 number? For me, in looking at the list of projects that were presented to us, that's an amount that was presented for a project. So to me, that project and that number makes sense to remove it from the budget, capital project budget.
Okay. Mr. Maniscalco, with that said, with the 1.25, a reduction of that one project would allow the rest of the projects to happen that are on the top of the list of capital, which gave us the 4 million. Because there were like 7 projects there. Or that was at the 5 million, then you reduced it to the 4. Capital would have to decide what they wanted to do with the 4. And then if this project is removed, then they would have less money to accomplish the projects that are out there.
Well, yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
So it's not like you're going to reallocate like that money and do other projects. Once we cut that project,
no,
that money
No,
reduces.
we don't get to cut the projects.
For clarity's
We
sake,
don't cut them.
Right.
Capital cuts them.
Right.
for clarity's sake, when you presented to us April 12th, I think it was, you presented a $4 million budget. This was one of those projects included in that presentation. Is that 1.25 million included in the 4 million?
That's what I was
Your
asking to
proposed-
begin with.
okay, so your proposed reduction to the capital budget would include that. So
Is
the
based
capital budget from my proposal is $4 million. You are proposing a reduction of 1.25.
We've already
To
had
that.
a proposal of 1.4. I'm
Correct.
saying 1.25.
So you're actually increasing it a little bit from that
Yes,
reduction.
correct.
So
But
I'm trying
that-
to find where the question is, that's all.
I think
I know,
that-
I'm trying to understand it too.
I think what your question was, if I'm not correct, is that you proposed a $4 million budget to us, April 12th, whatever it was. One of those projects that was included in that presentation was the Mitchell Fairgrounds structure, electricity, and water. Is that project included in the 4 million?
The Mitchell Fairgrounds?
Yes.
So the way capital works, those are the proposed projects from capital. That being said, there hasn't been a capital allocation yet. So once the budget is approved and the capital committee knows how much money they're going to get, they're going to sit down with the dollar amount that they get and the projects that they have, and they're gonna say, okay, these are the ones that we believe are the priorities and the ones that we're going to do.
At 4 million, I highly doubt we'll be able to do that project. Even at the reduction of what you're saying, the 1.25, the reduction of the cost of that project. That's what you're asking for from the 4 million.
So when you presented those projects, if I added up the cost of those projects, which I have not done, it would not equal $4 million. It would be over $4 million.
I believe those did equal out to the 4 million, because they might actually be more, because the capital committee was looking for 5.
So what you presented on April 12th
Not having the
included.
presentation in front of me, I don't have the add up of it, but as we've discussed, the capital committee approved a budget request of $5 million. I proposed a budget of $4 million.
And off that
we
4
gave
million,
you a
you want to reduce
presentation.
1.25.
Yes.
Like others have offered 700, you want to reduce it 1.25. Okay. And Counselor Lydecker, we don't have anything? Counselor Paterno? Okay. Okay, now it's my turn. What's the matter? Do you need a pen or something? Okay. I reluctantly am going to say yes to a cut on capital. I know what needs to get done. However, I'm only comfortable with reducing it by $1 million, bringing it down to $3 million, from the $4 million down to $3 million. I know what needs to be done. I know the projects that were being looked at, the ones that we shouldn't be kicking the can down the road with. I also want to be prepared if we have to have any portables. They may be coming out of capital, non-reoccurring, or they may be, or something may come up where we're going to need the money in capital. So I'd like to only go $1 million on capital. And I am not happy about cutting capital because we will never get anything done. That's why I hope we can come to the point of a referendum on all the items that we need to do for our infrastructures. So that's capital. Everybody good so far? Moving on, Wapping Cemetery. Phil, you want to address that?
This was a new request, I believe, Mr. Maniscalco,
Correct.
for Wapping Cemetery. They're asking for $16,000 to help offset some of their costs. They do have an association for the Wapping Cemetery Association, so this would be on top of that.
Councilor Gamble?
Thank you, Madam American. Councilor Grabowski, can you other than like what it is, like why did you choose this as a chopping block item?
For me, this is a new item. They do have an association that pays for a lot of these fees already. I didn't feel that it should be a new cost to the town, especially this year. We did ask for further support. I don't believe we received anything as far as an explanation as to what this would be used for. So to me, it just seemed like this was a natural cut.
Okay, thank you. I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Councilor Kozakowski?
Considering it would be a new cost, I'm in favor of cutting it.
Councilor Kubowski?
I'm a yes for cutting this.
I'm sorry? Yes. Councilor Evans?
Yes, I'm in favor of cutting.
Councilor Lopez is a yes. Councilor Lydecker, no comment. Councilor Paterna? Yes. Deputy Mayor King?
Yes.
Mayor Pendleton, yes. Okay, leaf collection. Councilor Gamble?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of cutting this. I've heard from thousands of residents that I didn't even know lived here. And nobody that I've talked to is in favor of this cut. And the other thing I look at is, if most of this budget goes through, we're still talking about raising the taxes on everybody over 8%. And then in addition to that, you have to take care of your own leaves. So I'm just not in favor of this cut.
Okay, so that's a no. Councilor Kozakowski?
It'll be a no also for me on top of the testimony that we've received from the public. I'd like to add that if we cut this, there's a good chance leaves are going to end up in our trash, which we have to pay for the removal of anyway. So might as well do this in a responsible, both socially and economically and environmental way. Thank you.
Councilor Kubowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a cut that I had proposed only because it's a large amount of money, and it would be cutting essentially one service. But I want to thank everybody who has come out to the council meetings and talked about this and shown how important that it is for us to keep this. So as a result, I am a no for cutting this from the budget.
Councilor Evans?
Thank you, and thank you to the community for reaching out, the people that came and spoke, the emails were received, and I do have to say I did receive one person who was in favor of cutting. I don't know if that was only me, but the loud majority has spoken, and I think it's a service to our town that we have all benefited from, and it does more than just alleviate the leaves in our yard. So I am not in favor of this cut.
Thank you. Counselor Lopez is what did he say? Go with the majority on that, right? Okay, so we'll save him for after. Counselor Leidecker didn't say anything. Counselor Paterno?
Oh, yes, you did.
Oh, she did go.
Counselor Leidecker said definitely no on leaf.
No leaf, okay. Counselor Paterno?
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would say we should not cut this as well, not just the testimony we received tonight, but the number of emails I've received that people are not in favor of cutting out leaf collection. So I would say no on this one.
Deputy Mayor King? No. Mayor Pendleton, no. Okay, and Lopez, we'll give him a no because that's everybody else. Okay, probate court? Counselor Gamble? Little backstory. Mr. Maniscalco on the probate court can give us a backstory on that. The 10,000 for probate court.
Well, I mean, that was a request from the probate court to increase their allocation this year. There really wasn't too much additional information provided beyond that.
So they asked for 10,000 more?
Correct.
Okay.
But you also given us a report that you look back at the last 5 years on what they were in, they weren't using that total amount, so it was safe to reduce it by the 10.
I'm a yes.
Counselor Kozakowski?
Yes.
Counselor Kubaski?
I'm a yes for cutting this.
Counselor Evans?
For clarity's sake, the request of additional funds for the budget was $4,660. Are we putting them in a position to not be able to function as a department by cutting them an additional $5,340?
Well, they're not a department, so they're a grant agency. So, you know, at the end of the day, with the dollar amount being that it is, as small as it is, in the event that we do find they need additional funds or that their budget line item goes over, we should be able to cover that overage.
Because on their budget, it's listed just as grants and contributions. So what does that mean? Their money all goes to what?
So, so the probate court is an entity of the state. There's 8 probate courts across the entire state. They're a regional entity that are housed within different municipalities. That agreement was made well before I was here, so I'm not 100% sure of all the ins and outs of the probate court agreement, but our probate court does serve the town of South Windsor as well as the town of Windsor and maybe East Windsor. I'm not positive on that one. So basically, there's a dollar amount that the town has to provide, as well as since we are the hosting agency, we have a reduction in that dollar amount that we do end up providing as a result.
And based on the amount that they have not spent historically, that would balance out to be inappropriate with $10,000 reduction.
Correct.
Okay, I'm in favor of the cut.
Thank you. Counselor Lopez? I would say yes, because there's no comment. Counselor Leidecker, any comment?
Point of order, Mayor.
Yes.
These votes cast on behalf of Councilor Lopez and Leidecker.
Yes.
Under what? How are you coming up with these decisions?
Because they've already shared that with us. Their line, their information.
Okay, so so as these come up, you're receiving texts from?
No, they sent it to me
Earlier.
Beforehand, okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Because I asked for all the categories, knowing they couldn't make it.
Thank you.
Counselor Paterno?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor King?
Yes, good.
Mayor Pendleton, yes. Okay, HR is a given. Gamble?
I'm in favor of this cut.
Kozakowski?
Yes, in favor.
Evans?
Yes, in favor.
Leidecker? No comment. Paterno? Paterno?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor King?
Yes.
Kubaski?
Yes.
Mayor Pendleton, yes. Evans? HR? Yes, okay,
Can
sorry.
I, just for a point of clarification under HR, it's actually 19,300, just to make
18,300?
19,300.
19-3.
Yes,
Thank you.
just so everybody's aware.
Thank you. Okay, now we're on to the library. Counselor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is part of the reason why I wanted to have this special meeting, was to understand more about the wide range of cuts proposed to the library, 50,000 to 300,000. So I went back to try to reconcile, because I believe that the original intent of this cut was for vacancies. I believe that there was some thought that the vacancies were not filled, so that that money was just sort of like sitting out there and being reapportioned or repurposed for other things. But in the interim, they are actually in the process of, I believe, hiring 3 of the positions that they've been trying to for over a year. So that money that we were going to cut, I believe, will be needed for these 3 positions, which would mean that if we do cut them, then programs would have to be cut. And so then that's my actual question, is I don't know, just cutting $50,000 is sort of different than these other things, like, you know, the Wapping Cemetery, that's a line item. Probate court, that's a line item. They asked for 10,000. HR, we know what that line item is. So I don't really know what the cut would be for now, if they're going to be filling the vacancies that were the original intent of the cut. So I'm really not in favor of this cut, because I don't know what it would be cutting. So I'm a no.
Counselor Kozkowski.
I agree with Councilor Gamble. It's not clear what these cuts are for, and if the intent was to eliminate positions that haven't been filled, okay, but if we're in the process of hiring people to fill those positions, I would not support cutting those salaries out of the budget. The town already has retention issues as it is. How would it look to the community to go ahead and hire people and then a month later defund their budget and cut the budget for that position? And I think that would reflect terribly for the community and for our town. So without a bit more understanding of what those cuts are for, or even what the $50,000 cut would be for, I'm going to go with no, without prejudice.
Counselor Kapowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the cuts that were proposed on here were based upon conversations outside of the meetings with other counselors on thoughts that they had as far as reduction of the budget for the library. The thing to remember is the library is a grant organization, so we would not be striking out a line item. It's one of the few where we don't do that. It would be a reduction, and then the library board would then decide where the reduction would come. With that being said, from the start, I was not in favor of any cuts to the library. These were put in here just for other conversations, so I am a no for cuts to the library.
Counselor Evans.
Thank you. I don't have my numbers in front of me, but based on the calculations previously and salaries for positions that have not been filled since 2021 and at least September 2022, my thought, what I would like to see, is a little different than the 50,000 or the 300,000. I would like to see us reduce the budget for the library by 200,000, but also, in the meantime, place $100,000 in contingency for future discussions, if the library board were to need to come to talk to us about positions that have been filled and where their budget lies, how the spending has been appropriated. I just see spending that has been adjusted in ways that it was not initially proposed. And I really want to see this library thrive. I want to see strong positions filled. And I think by having this reduction, we can hope to ensure that that will happen. So my proposal is a cut of $200,000, but an additional $100,000 allocated to contingency for the town.
Okay. And do we have anything from Councilor Lopez? How about Councilor Lidecker? Still not sure? Okay. And Councilor Paterno?
I would support what Councilor Evans approaches, which is to reduce the budget by approximately 200,000, but reserve 100,000 for hiring new positions. And I think to make clear to me, and Councilor Kozakowski raised this issue, that for 2 years those positions haven't been filled. So if the positions are really being filled, let's get the money there. But in the meantime, I think we need to try to cut the budget somewhat and keep things moving forward. Thanks.
Deputy Mayor King?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was originally in line to cut this by $185,000. However, in hearing Councilor Evans, I agree that, and even listening to the other councilors, we need to make sure that if these positions are indeed getting filled, and there's no guarantee, right?
They're literally coming like next week. I mean, that's what the letter is.
Okay, so just so the public is aware, I was not aware of this. I don't know where this letter, so I don't know.
Take one and pass this down.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to table that until we read this.
Well, the email that came last week.
This email came last week? To who? I didn't see this.
No.
I have my, yeah, I mean, it's fine if it did. I really checked my email religiously. I didn't see this email.
I didn't see this either.
I have my emails right here. So what we're looking at, people, for the town is a letter dated May 5th, 2023, to Mayor Pendleton and members of the South Windsor Town Council from Ms. Catherine Chiappetta and members of the South Windsor Public Library Board. This is the first time that we're seeing this outside of, I guess, Councilor Gamble. So
5-minute recess so we can read this. This is new
Okey-doke.
information. Make a motion.
well, can we put this to the end, Madam Mayor? Would that be fair, or?
Well, let's just take, because we're on library, and let's just take care of library while we're doing this, and we can read this now. I don't want to move anything around.
Okay,
Take
so
5
I'm
minutes for us
fine,
to read this.
I'm fine with that. So I move that we try to absorb this letter that we just received, and we take a 5-minute recess to research this and to read this.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Not hearing any. 5-minute recess, please. like to call the meeting back to order. Okay, now in light of receiving this new information and receiving this letter, I'm sure that it's created more questions for us, so we're going to take our time to go through this. So Councilor Gamble, we're going to start with you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Trying to digest all these documents, and so I hear some trepidation around, if those positions became vacant like 2 years ago, where's that money? But according to these documents, the children's librarian and the reference librarian left service on the end of June of 2022. So when you leave service, you have to pay out their vacation time, which is thousands and thousands of dollars, because usually you've been around a while. And then you still have to have some part-time workers to cover for them while you're trying to fill that position. So those two salaries combined are about $125,000. And if you take into account all the, the benefits you had to pay out for them leaving, and, there's $22,000 of unspent plus part-timers, it's pretty close. I didn't go through the entire details of it, but, we're not talking $300,000 in salary. We're talking $125,000 for those two positions. To me, the numbers sort of add up, and I don't really see a justified cut of $200,000, and then on top of that, getting into the business of trying to, library operations of having them come to us when they want to, buy books or something like that with this $100,000 contingency. So, I'm still, if you do want to make a cut of, something, it would, $50,000 or something like that if, to make a cut, so that there's equal, pain for everybody, I guess, but I don't want people to think that, they're not doing their due diligence with trying to run their library with all the different types of, constraints they have put upon them by, hiring and stuff like that. So I'm a, 50K guy, I guess I would say.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Kozakowski?
Thank you. I agree with Councilor Gamble, especially with the explanation of the payout of benefits when somebody leaves, and that could come up to some real value depending on how long the person was there and what their benefit package was, whatever. So it's not as bad as probably the money that was not spent on where it was where it was budgeted for, maybe not be as bad as it may appear without the numbers. Looking at this little table that we got, I'm sure it's going to be entered into the record for the public, but there's one significant difference that I'd like to hear a better explanation for. Under the 200 line, supplies and expenses, it looks like operating expenses was budgeted for just over 124,000, and the final expenses were 197,000 and change. So that's a difference of 71,000 in expenses. So I'm curious to see what that, why there's such a significant difference in that. I mean, is there, I'm just curious what it is. I mean, were there more programs that were added that were successful or not successful, or, so I just want to see what that is. So I hope before we make a final decision on that, we can get a little more, some answers to questions that I think all of us are going to have
Absolutely.
tonight. But
if we could submit our questions.
Yes, I will. Well, this isn't a real vote, so I'm not voting yes or no, I'm abstaining, but I would like to withhold until we get some better answers, and maybe on our next meeting when we go to finalize the budget, we'll have answers ahead of time.
Okay?
Just to jump in, it looks like on the paragraph across from there to the right, there's a bolded line that says the operating expenses line of the budget, books, et cetera, shows expenditures of 73. Is that the explanation?
I don't see that, Mr. Maniscalco.
Yeah, there,
I got it.
and in the letter dated May 2nd, it says the columns of figures show that $197,174 was spent on operating materials, which is $73,000 more than the anticipated $124,000. Doesn't actually say what the $73,000 was for. Chairs, maybe, I forget.
Was it
Books?
Please don't say
Sorry.
books. It came from books.
Books, periodicals, musical. I'm just reading the letter, I'm not paraphrasing.
So I guess, Mayor, if you're looking for a little more definitive, if we need to share the burden of the budget cuts, I would be more in the camp of the 50,000, but I would still like some explanations.
Sure. Understood. Counselor Kubowski.
I'm going to stick with my no on the cuts on this. I can see the explanations here. And I go back to the fact that the movement of funds in between lines is strictly up to the library board once they have the money. So I'm sticking with a no cut on this.
Counselor Evans.
I still feel that we should be reducing the budget. I still feel a $200,000 cut is appropriate with $100,000 held in contingency. I look at some notes in here, and I think of, so the two full-time director positions, the reference and the children's. Perhaps there was a payout for the reference. I do know the children's head librarian left for another position in another town, Granby, East Granby, somewhere Granby something. So there should not have been a payout for that amount. And then I know there was I'm guessing it's an L2, lower level children's full-time employed staff member that left as well. That would not be a payout situation. So I'm not quite sure that completely compensates for the two. I also think of our planning department, and I think of Michelle Leip and her great transition planning, the amount of transparency that was in that for her plan for retirement, and bringing someone on board to train and she was very, very transparent with that in our budget. I didn't hear any discussion in the budget presentation of funding in preparation for retirement. So I think that was missing for me as well. So I feel comfortable staying with the 200 with 100 in contingency.
Thank you. Counselor Paterno.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, just having received this information 10 minutes ago, I'm going to put myself down as a question mark until I can really digest all these numbers, and I will happily get back to all council members on my feelings about where we should go with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor King.
I originally said $185,000, and I got that number in regards to presentation as well as the part-time wages from what we approved, what was requested, and what was actually used. That being said, in light of this new information, I just want to put a hold on that. So I was going to say 150,000 just to be err on the side of caution. That I think still needs to be cut. However, until we have that final vote, I need to review this information as well and have a clear understanding of how this budgeted money, if she receives it, if the library receives it, excuse me, is going to be used. So for now, it's just a cut of 150,000.
Thank you. And me. Yes, I do believe there should be a cut. However, there's more questions than answers I have that this has created for me. As I mentioned before, we're presented a budget by the library board. We have each line item in front of us with a number. When we go throughout the year, and the library board sometimes returns money and doesn't return money, of which I'd like to find out what that is, for the last 2 years on the return of funds for each of their line items. And what I'm concerned about is that I hear that the books between Munis and the books that the library keeps are not accurate with each other. What I also hear is that they're spending come the month of June. And if there's monies left over, they go out and purchase books or buy whatever they want to buy instead of them returning the money to the town from a line item. So that's disturbing to me in the fact that what is presented to us is not spent on the items that is told to us. But to take the monies that's left over that is unspent and that you have and spend it on other items. Well, one, that gives a poor accounting to us, as in the operating expenses here, and that messes it up for year after year after year. What was the increase due? It was increased to buying books. Where did that other $71,000 come? It came from salary. So that was a misrepresentation. We gave you the $71,000 for salary. You didn't fill the position, so you took it upon yourselves to buy books with it instead of returning it to the town. And that's what was just explained to us, $73,000 to purchase books. So I have a few questions on the way that their budget is, one, created, because also on top of that, if you look at last year's budget and you look at this year's budget, office supply line item has been removed. Completely removed. Office supplies. So when you need books, or I'm sorry, when you need paper and pens and pencils, it's gone. There is no office supply line item on the budget. So that's concerning to me. I have a lot more questions now than I did before. And I guess to ask, what was returned last year, how much was returned, where did this other monies come from? They came from various accounts. I came up with $79,000 that was used from other accounts to fund, because they're negative or they're over budget, correct, Patty, in 3 accounts? Yeah. What's that?
I'll take a look and send the town manager
Okay,
report.
thank you, thank you. So yes, I do have some questions and concerns that I hope to get resolved before the 15th so we can make a decision on the library budget. So that's where I stand, because there's more information I think that we're all seeking. So, thank you. Now moving on, we have the condo fee.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Since I also live in a condo, I'm going to recuse myself for this discussion.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Note for the record, Councilor Paterno is recusing himself from this conversation. Councilor Gamble for the condo fees. Give him a chance to get out of the room.
I'll give him another
Give him a chance.
10 seconds.
Go ahead, hop along.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just so I understand, and for everybody out there, this is a reimbursement fee that we would pay the condo associations for snow removal?
Yeah, so it's a reimbursement for a number of things. There's snow removal, I think it's trash pickup, lights, and then also a fee for fire hydrants as well.
To me, that sounds very generous of the town to be paying the residents condo fees that normally are in an HOA. So I'm in favor of the cut.
Councilor Kozakowski.
I guess I need a little more explanation of why we've been paying private developments, money to help maintain their properties.
Yeah, I can't answer why for you. This has been here before before I was in this position. I can tell you I did do some research when I first came here, because I asked a very similar question, but was curious if this was something common in other municipalities, and was only able to find 1 or 2 other ones at that time in 2019. So I can't tell you why it was put in place, but I can tell you it's not exactly common amongst municipalities to be doing this.
Okay, so you're confident that this isn't some sort of stipulated agreement that we might have with, the town might have with the condo associations or
No,
leadership?
we do not have any written
We
agreement
won't
with
be
them.
violating any sort of legal obligation to pay?
No.
Okay, then, if that's the case, I'm in favor of cutting.
Thank you. Counselor Kubowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am in agreement with Counselor Gamble. I don't think we should be paying for private areas to reimburse them for their various expenses. So I am a yes on this cut of 75,000.
Counselor Evans?
Thank you. Just to clarify, for if I were to live on a private road, like what, Schoolhouse, right? That's a private road? This does not exist on those developments. This is truly just a condo.
It's for a specific number of condos within the community. I think there's 2 or 3 specifically that it goes to.
So it's not all condos, it's certain.
It's not all of them, it's a specific set of them.
I am in favor of this cut.
Thank you. Okay, Counselor Prentice. Deputy Mayor King?
Yes, I'm in favor of the cut.
Myself, yes. Moving on to the parks and the trash. So we can get Counselor Paterno back, please. Mr. Maniscalco? Counselor Gamble for the parks, please. And if we have any questions,
Thank you,
the
Madam Mayor.
parks supervisor is here.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, I was all gung-ho for this $71,000 cut because I thought, oh, no-brainer. But then I read the letter that John sent, and so now it sounds like it's a bad idea to cut this from the budget because it'll just mean the same amount of work for his guys, plus we'll have more trash. So if John or you could explain what...
Mr. Caldwell, could you come to the
I'm sorry,
lectern?
Mr. Caldwell could explain what that... Or Mr. Maniscalco would be fine.
Mr. Caldwell will give us plenty of color, I'm sure, so.
You're welcome.
Particularly since this was his suggestion, so.
Good evening, John Caldwell, 63 Natsiski Farm Road, Superintendent of Parks. I came tonight as a citizen, but to listen to the comments that the council was going to make. I believe you all received an email that I wrote earlier. I'm going to be real honest, okay, because that's what I do most of the time. Hopefully Mike supports me. The trash program, if you cut it, is going to come down on the town council. It's going to be similar to the LEAF program. Percentage of the citizens use the LEAF program, and it's used heavily. Our parks in 2002 were a pack it in, pack it out park. We never had a trash program. When the guys mow the lawn, they pick up garbage. We pick up stuff in the trails. We pick up stuff in the parks. We instituted a trash program to help eliminate a lot of that problem. And it's done so. The guys don't pick up quite as much garbage, but we still do pick up a considerable amount of garbage. The sports programs, such as lacrosse or soccer tournament, football, they all have their own dumpster when they do their own event. We require them to do that because it's just too much of a burden on the trash program. Trash program has approximately 57 trash cans, which it's almost an even split trash and recycling. We just finally went last year or 2 years ago to a blue recycling can, which has also helped the recycling program. My biggest fear with cutting the trash program is number one, the mess that we're going to have. One of the places that we're going to be building is the splash pad, and I think garbage there is going to be critical in that area. The Bark Park's another area that's critical. Rye Street gets a ton of visitors. Our parks have grown in the last, I'm going to say since 2003, exponentially. We have more walkers, more joggers, more winter access. Trash doesn't go out in the winter. It ends in November. We do still have some cans here and there that we take care of ourselves. Can we throttle the trash program back? We probably can. One of the things that was proposed in my email, I'm kind of shooting from the hip here. I could just read the email, I guess, but is that we could put some dumpsters out in the parks. Dumpsters become catch-alls, everything lands there, from air conditioners to refrigerators, to garbage on the side, to personal garbage. One of the things that I've noticed in a couple times that I've been out in the parks in the last year is that some people think that the trash program in the parks is for their own personal use. It's not. It's for trash in the parks, whether they're walking with their Dunkin' Donut or Starbucks or whatever they enjoy for their drink. They put it in at their walk at the end of the walk. But I've actually seen a couple people that actually, one was the funniest. They must have had a party at their house with balloons, and they were stuffing the trash cans full of balloons. And it wouldn't be bad if the balloons were deflated, but they all had air in them still. So I went and I asked, can I help you? And they said, no, I'm all set. I said, well, you're filling the garbage cans with what looks like your personal garbage. And they said, no, it's okay. I'm a resident and I walk in this park. I'm like, well, so thinking, all right, well, I'll just deflate the balloons when she's gone and we'll move on from there. But, you know, I think it's a bold step to try and cut the trash program. I think that we should maybe look to throttle it back a little bit. I would like to talk to the trash program. One of the things that we currently have is they actually do the Bark Park for free. They don't charge us anything for any of the cans at the Bark Park, which is nice. Like I said, I think it's tough because it's similar to the LEAF program where a lot of people use the trash program, and I think it's valuable to keeping our parks clean, and I also think that it's going to be tough on the council. I mean, we have to make cuts someplace. Some of us have to make sacrifices. Change is difficult. I'm sure that people would get used to it after a while, but
Who is they, Mr. Caldwell?
the residents, the
No,
non-residents,
who is
everybody.
they that doesn't charge us for the dog park?
It is USA Hauling.
USA Hauling. So do they physically come in and take care of the barrels around the parks, or how does that work?
The tippers are all put in certain locations where the truck can get to them. So it's just like when you have your garbage, you put it out to the edge of the road. They're all in certain locations. One area that we have that's different is the Wapping tennis courts. The high school will bring 2 cans down during the week, but they know the day the gentleman comes up to pick it up, and they bring it up to the back of the hill so he can get to it, because he was driving down the hill, which we can't have him driving across the grass. But they all just go to a central location: Rise Street Park, Wapping Park, the baseball fields.
So our receptacles of trash and recycling is in a certain location within these within these parks?
Yes.
They're not spread out throughout the parks?
No.
They're at a okay.
No.
Okay.
Like Nevers Park is at the base of the hill. There's one up at the top of the hill. Rise Street Park is in the front parking lot by the concession stand. They're all in one location. Baseball is, the community center is over by the Boundless Playground there.
Why is this a separate, fee or to bid as opposed to what we do for the residents? Well, it could, because they do our trash for the residents. Why is this separate from that?
I guess that would be a Mike question.
Or a Tony
I'm not
Manfrey
really
question?
sure.
Well, seeing as John's been here a lot longer than I've been here, and it was in the budget way before I was here.
I mean, why isn't that negotiated with our tipping fees with the residents? And when that's something Tony Manfrey can, combine the services?
I think I can talk to Tony about that. We can have a discussion, and we can talk to the provider.
And see if we...
I think the problem is that all waste, we contract with All Waste to pick up trash from customers, or for the municipal solid waste. We would probably be considered a commercial customer, so I'm guessing that we're not considered a residential customer like our taxes pay for, so it may be a different scenario. I'd have to look further into it, but that's kind of my thought off the...
But I think the trash in the parks would be less than what a resident would produce, being that it's like coffee cups or paper bags, or it wouldn't be like commercial stuff we're throwing out in a park.
People's leftover party balloons, I guess.
Oh, party balloons?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you have that at residential too. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, like I said, I think we have a total of 31 trash cans and 27 recycling cans. So that's the total cans that we have in all of the parks together.
And how often is that picked up?
Once a week. April 1st to November 15th. Nope, first week of November, I'm sorry.
And that's $71,000.
Yes, it is.
Anyone else have questions?
Yes.
Counselor Evans?
So I did have concerns about this initially, but the thing that alleviated my concerns was that I was heard, you're saying you're being honest with us, was that the recommendation came from you unsolicited. Is this something that you want cut? Or was this requested of you to find a cut?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, I actually appreciate that question because, Mr. Caldwell brought that up to us during our staff budget review. So I'm not really quite sure why the changes occurred.
We were asked to come up with some big numbers. Trash program's a big number. I'm never gonna suggest to cut my crew. We do more than is asked of us. We have a phenomenal crew. We do a great job. And if you want to cut a number that I think the residents could possibly get used to, it's one of them. Can we cut equipment? No. Can we cut trucks, cars? No. Personnel? No. And you're asking us the tough questions, and if you ask me, I would say the trash program is a possibility. Is it difficult? Yeah, it's difficult on all of us. And like I said, in 2003, the trash program before that was a pack it in, pack it out. If you bring 2 coffee cups into a park, it's not hard to bring 2 coffee cups out. But the problem is that my department will be picking up more garbage. More stuff may get left around in parks. More garbage bags may get left out. You will hear more from the town residents.
So is it fair to say?
But me as a taxpayer, do I want my taxes to go up? No, I don't. But they have to go up some.
So I think my concern, I think of Nevers Park, and I go for a walk with my dog there, or I go to the playground with my kids, and let's use the dog scenario. I'm not at the dog park, but I take my dog for a walk. I pick my dog poop up in a bag. Now, what am I gonna do with that? Am I gonna put it in my car? Am I gonna drive it home? Or am I leaving it there? I have to say, the number of times that I have gone for a walk and seen which I don't know why people do it. If you're not gonna throw it out, just leave it, don't put it in a bag. The number of people that use a bag and then leave the bag behind. My concern is we're gonna see more of that. The dumpster accessibility. So if we are expecting people to put their garbage in a dumpster at a general location, that's not the expectation? It's just a carry in, carry out?
Yeah.
Okay, because from what I understand, some of those dumpsters are locked.
They are.
I actually had a friend attend, a non-South Windsor resident who has no idea what's going on with our budget, attend an event at Rye Street Park and say to me, "You have no garbage receptacles there." And I said, "Oh, it's funny you say that because that's on our budget. That's something we're talking about." She said the closest one was over at the playground. So I think there are some, but her thought process was, you need more there. And I said, we're actually looking at going in the other direction. So I'm just concerned for our town and our residents and just the beauty of our parks that having this cut. So to me, I don't know that it's worth it for the $71,000 unless there was somewhere in between. Can we reduce it without impacting completely?
Well, that was one of the things that I had mentioned. We could look at trying to throttle it back some. Maybe we can negotiate some with the carrier itself. Rye Street Park, I believe there's 9 cans. Like I said, I'm going from memory. Between recycling and trash, it's either 7 or 9 in there somewhere. To me, this is going to be me as a resident, to dump 57 cans and charge $71,000 a year seems like an awful lot of money. You don't just dump it once. They're dumping them every week. So, as far as the dog bags, I don't know if anything will ever make that better. I think we could put a garbage can every 12 feet. It's the biggest thing that we find in the parks, and I agree. If you're gonna just throw it in the woods without the bag. But, and I guess it's no different than you walk your dog in the neighborhood. What do you do with it? You bring it home. Do I want you to bring it home? No, I don't, but I also don't want you to leave it on the side of the trail or next to a portalette that might have, or in the portalette, that we have to pay twice as much now to get clean because it's full of bags, because that happens now.
And I have done that drive home with a bag of dog poop in my car, and it is not pleasant.
Well, I have grandkids now, so I've done it with the other things too, so.
And as far as like our sports teams and our clubs that use these facilities, you said the dumpsters they have to use for a tournament, but like a general everyday weekly use, are they contributing in any way to this cost for the $71,000? Is there
No.
any type of balance that the sports teams might be contributing or might
No.
we consider that? Just thinking that although they have the dumpsters for the big tournaments, the impact probably comes more from the regular use, the baseball games, the soccer, lacrosse, all of that. So I'm just wondering if we might look at balancing that cost in some way. Thank you.
Some type of a user fee? Some type of a user fee,
To the sports groups?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna be a citizen again. Don't I already pay taxes? The sports groups are assessed a user fee now.
Okay.
The user fee usually goes to amenities and whether it's, we rebuilt the entire Little League complex and we use user fees for it. We've done things at Rice Street Park, we've used user fees for it. Because our regular budget will not support some of those amenities at the parks. One of the things that we're looking at this year is new bleachers through user fees. So, those are things that we can, the regular budget does support, but these things will help the sports programs or the sporting, because it's their user fees. We don't use it for our budget itself.
Right. By the way, the fields at the Little League complex look phenomenal.
Thank
I
you.
was there for Little League opening day. It's great. So, any other questions? Counselor Gamble? No?
No questions, I was just
No?
gonna,
Everything is answered?
everything has been answered, yes.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, maybe can you get, between now and Monday, have a conversation with Mr. Manfree about with the Always, with the contract?
Yes.
And maybe renegotiate or something? We're a municipality, I don't know, and we have them contracted for our residential. So see if we can do something. Maybe come back to us on Monday with that.
All right.
Or before, and then Mr. Maniscalco can send it to us. Okay? So I think we'll hold off on that for now, till we get more information. Thank you. Okay, the emergency management training. Counselor Gamble.
Mr. Maniscalco, is this one of those, we just did something last year, we can hold off the year and we won't be putting our emergency responders in some sort of jeopardy by not having this latest training? It's something we can postpone a year that would be
Correct. So this is
life-threatening?
This is an annual training that we've been doing over the last couple of years. We did one just recently. We were going to try to do another one. It'd be a tabletop training for $30,000, bringing in the group out of Texas that helped us this last time. Seeing as it's a difficult budget year and the situation is as it is, we figured this could potentially be one of those items.
I tend to agree. I would approve this cut.
I'm sorry?
Said I agree. I approve this cut.
Thank you. Counselor Kozakowski?
Yes, in favor of the cut.
Thank you. Counselor Kubaski?
I'm also in favor of the cut.
Thank you. Counselor Evans?
I support the cut.
Thank you. Counselor Paterna?
Yes.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor King?
Yes.
Thank you. Myself, yes. The building plan scanner. Counselor Gamble?
Thank you. So just to refresh my memory, they were going to be scanning all the building plans in town for, so they would not, so you could get rid of them, if they wouldn't be destroyed, if there was a fire, that kind of thing, right? So we currently have a lot of building plans.
So this is to continue scanning older building plans. So we currently get building plans that are electronic in the department so that we don't have to do this moving forward. This is to scan the historic ones that we have housed within the town facilities. So once we scan them, we don't have to retain the hard copies, which are taking up a significant amount of space. So they've already started this project. They've done it a couple of years. This would basically be taking a year off.
I think they should take a year off. They've done a good job to this day. Well, I approve this cut.
Thank you, Kozakowski. Councilor Kozakowski.
I am not in favor of this cut. This is a continued effort for several years now, and I'm proud to say that I was part of the first scanning project for the building department in the early 2000s. As a young man getting his feet wet and you working in the municipal government. My fear is that if we cut this year, it's not going to get funded next year, and it's not going to get funded the year after that. So I am in favor of keeping this in the budget to continue the very worthwhile scanning. As documents get scanned, as I understand it, they can be destroyed and no longer stored by us, by the town, and which storage comes at a cost also. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so we're saving money in a way by bringing ourselves, more in tune with, the time and expectations of having files and records available digitally.
Thank you, Councilor Kubaski.
I understand Councilor Kozakowski's concerns, but I am still in favor of this cut.
Thank you, Councilor Evans.
Thank you. Can I just ask, looking at the timeline of this project, can you give an idea of where it is?
This is a very long project. It's going to go on for years and years and years.
Are we like 50%?
Not even close to that.
Not even close.
No.
And when did we start this?
I believe Councilor Kozakowski was there.
I figured you were talking about the town where you work in, not South Windsor itself. You were talking about South Windsor?
For South Windsor.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I am in favor of this cut.
You are?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Paterna?
Yes, I'm in favor of this cut.
Deputy Mayor King?
I'm reluctantly in favor of the cut. However, I don't know, and the reason, and I think I do need to give an explanation, because I agree with Councilor Kozakowski in the sense that you can't stop progress. My fear is that, say for example, we don't scan, it's 40 grand, but we don't scan, and then something happens. And then all of a sudden somebody says, you guys stop the scanning, and that's what kind of put us, is $40,000 worth not continuing the project, even for a year. And it's a rough year, but $40,000 in the big scheme of things, while it is a good piece of money for a regular person, in the big scheme of things, it may not be. However, we do have to show that we are making cuts, we are trying. And so I'll go with the $40,000 cut, but I feel I just need to get an explanation for that.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I can think about that when we do give our final vote, but, I just wanted to give an explanation for that.
Thank you. I'd like to know that it's going to be returned next year to the budget, so we can get caught back up. I mean, holding off on one thing for a year is okay, or two things for a year is okay. So yes, I'm in favor of this, but I'd like to get back to it next year. Okay, so now, and then we have the diesel contract. That's a $20 automatic savings that you found, Mr. Maniscalco, right? Is what that is?
Yeah, we settled our diesel contract after the budget was created, and we found, because we bid out our diesel purchases, just like our gas, and we had $20,000 in savings.
So that's really not even a vote or a consensus on the diesel, because that's a $20,000 savings. Okay? So now that we have this, what I would suggest that we have our questions submitted to Mr. Maniscalco and hopefully answers before next Monday. We can gather other information from the counselors that aren't here, and we can come prepared for next Monday's discussion and approval of the budget with the reductions and come up with some type of a mill rate. And at this time, I'd just like to entertain.
Madam Mayor, before you do,
What?
do you want, we kind of totaled up what you have at least consensus on to give you kind of an idea
Yes.
where you might be?
Go ahead, Mr. Maniscalco, what do you have?
So if you were to do, because you have a pretty big variable in terms of the capital budget. So if you were to do $1 million from capital, you would be at a 33.08 mill rate. Is that a reduction? And that's a reduction of 14.69%? Or is it? Yeah, so 14.69%. If you were to do a $700,000 reduction from capital, it gets you a 33.16 mill rate, which is a reduction of 14.46%. 14.46%. That's at the 700,000.
700?
Yes. And that does not include because you didn't make a decision on the library, and it does not include the trash at the parks.
Councilor
Madam
Paterno.
Mayor.
The
Mr.
14
Maniscalco, so the,
No, go
oh,
ahead.
was that, no, go ahead. Just want to compare, last year's mill rate, present mill rate, 38.77?
Yeah.
So this would get us down to 33.08 at that $1 million cut to capital.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Evans?
The 14% reduction is from the government budget.
That's from the manager's proposed budget down. Correct.
Government, like the town side, not the Board
The
of Ed.
town side. The manager's proposed budget.
Does it just the general government side or the overall? That's the mill rate reduction. So the mill rate would be reduced by 14%. Does that make sense?
The mill rate reduced by 14%.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Deputy Mayor King?
So going along with Councilor Evans, so this is completely the town cutting its services, but this does not include the BOE or anything in regards to the schools. So this
Well,
is keeping them at what they're currently at.
Correct. So the Board of Ed would be at the proposed amount that they came in with.
Do they come back up before us before we make a final vote? No. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Now, if there was any decision to cut the Board of Education budget, it would happen next week, and it's done by us on how much we want to reduce them by, and then they decide where they'd like to cut it.
Thank you.
That's just the process. I'm not saying that's happening, I'm just saying that's the process. Is there any other questions? Not seeing any. Thank you for that update. Councilor Paterno, anything? Nope. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you for that update on those numbers, Mr. Maniscalco, and please submit any questions to Mr. Maniscalco that we can ask of Patty or gather any more information before Monday. Good? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Not hearing any? We are adjourned. Thank you.